Welcome back to a continuation of episode one. During this conversation, we're going to talk more with Merrill Tingsdale about who she is now. Now that she has taken off that uniform, what is she doing with her life and what is she loving about it? Most importantly, we talk about her role as a mother and the influence she has over her children. We talk about her motivational and her personal fitness career she has stepped into. And you know it, we're going to talk about CBS's Tough as Nails experience. Sometimes you even have to memorize the airframe manual verbatim, right? You
Yes.
have to know
Yeah.
exactly what to do in an emergency. And so you always have to be thinking. So I think it's very difficult to fly an aircraft but it comes with a manual, right? There's another
Yes.
job that you have that I feel is possibly the most important job anyone could have on this planet. And it doesn't come with a manual. And I'm going to throw this amazing picture up of you. And that job is motherhood. You became a mom while serving. How do you
Yes.
feel your military service has helped you become the mom that you are?
So I did, and no, I love that picture. There's so much on that picture. One thing is that was my final flight in the U-2 that day. So that picture. So my son was just he had just he was just a little bit over two. So his birthday's in November. So it was my Finney flight. I had just went over 1,000 hours, so it was great to have all this going on. And so yes, so I have my son in 2012. Yeah, 2012 year, the dragon lady dragon, whole bunch of
Hey, all the
symbology going on. And I was 41 at the time when I had him, just due to the fact that I had been flying for about 18 years at this point. And in my particular airframes that I flew, being pregnant was, you can't be pregnant and fly in a U-2. That's not going to happen.
Mm.
So we had this opportunity. I didn't think we were going to have a family, but we ended up having a child pretty easily. And I will tell you, the military prepared me because my son is this huge, I mean, I love him, but he is this huge unknown quantity, in terms of what is he going to do from day to day? What is going to happen? Is he going to be sick, especially at a young age? Am I going to get a call? Because when my son was born, he was 22 inches long and he is a beast. Like he's huge. And so when kids mess with him, he'll thump them. And then I get a call. Oh, your son's being aggressive. Oh, well, you got to go pick him up today. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to go. I'm in the Pentagon and I got to go brief my 3-star. Oh, well, that's going to have to wait a little bit. So you have to be flexible in some way to kind of deal with that. And I think the military has taught me to be flexible and sometimes to be patient and just really time manage as much as you can, because I think being a parent, being a mom, and for some dads, it's really controlled chaos. And you just have to be ready for whatever comes at you. I mean, there is no manual, but you have to deal with emergencies like you would in an aircraft. So, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
So I have my son, biological, he's 8 years old. We about 7 months ago took on my foster daughter who is 6, who came into our household. So she's we're fostering now, but hopefully in about 2 months she will be legally adopted. So we're looking forward to that.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so happy to hear
Yeah.
that. I think that's
Thank
just
you.
another really incredible way that you're serving the community in your own home. You are welcoming and loving other children, and foster parents to me are just so incredible, and they're silent heroes, in our communities. So it's really awesome to see you taking on that responsibility as well. I have 5 kids of my own. Their ages range from 21 to 2. That's right. College to the crib. We know no bounds over here. And I know that the moments are very fleeting. So, what are you doing to capture some traditions with your kids?
Wow, I'm just trying to get the tradition of morning routine without someone having a meltdown. That's where I'm at right now. Oh my God. Oh my God. You
True
know,
story.
true. Yeah, facts.
That's all.
If my foster daughter does not have a meltdown because there's not fudge covered pretzels that she could take to school, I would love it. I would love it. So what traditions? I think one tradition that families need to get back to is just having dinner around the table instead of just sitting in front of the TV. I mean, we actually sit, there's no TV, we sit and we talk and they use manners. They hold a knife and fork like they have some sense in them and that they're not Neanderthals. And we actually ask them about their day. There's these table cards that you could do where you can ask questions to have people talk. And I think a lot of times I find that I don't see a lot of families doing that anymore. And that's just one of the basics and one of the traditions. On Sundays, I'm in my domesticated mode, so I'll do a big family meal, whether here, I love my green egg and barbecuing. So I will do some tri tip, a pork shoulder, a brisket. Yeah, or I'll do
Over.
You can come over anytime. Come over anytime. I just did some yesterday. I did some pork in a crock pot. Crock pot's my favorite friend on the weekday. So some pulled pork, some carnitas. We're gonna have that tonight. So yeah,
Sounds good. I
yes,
noticed that you were a bit domesticated on your Facebook as well. You have some really incredible pictures of food lying around, which is a skill you need to have. And I think you have said such a really important thing, like sitting around and talking and having that interaction begins at home. Then it's normalized and they can do it again and again outside the home. And so we do the same. We have dinner. Even when I was a single mom, it was a requirement. We will sit down, we will pray for our food, and we were going to eat together. And I want to know about what's going on in your life. So,
yes.
really important part of parenting is to know your children, and that's one of a really great way to do it. What is the one thing that you want your children to know about life?
So I'll gosh, there's so many things, but I will put this in the context of my foster daughter. So when she first came here to the house, and I remember we were looking at some show in Disney, Doc McStuffins, and she didn't really know the show. All you parents out there, you're like, "Oh, I know the show." If you have a girl, even boys, they like it. And I said to her, "Hey, when you grow up, do you want to be like Doc McStuffins?" And she goes, "Who?" I go, "A doctor, Doc McStuffins." And she said to me, "Oh no, that's too hard." And I was like, "What?" Like I went into military mode right there. And at 6, because she's 6 years old, she already had in her mind thought that there were certain things in life that were just too hard for her to do. And we had this discussion. I'm like, "Well, do you want to live in a house and do this?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Do you want to live like in the place that we live?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Then you're going to have to start doing some work and figure out what you want to do in life." And there might be things that are hard, but they're not, I didn't say insurmountable at the time, but that I'm like, but you could still do them. It's hard. You got to put time and effort into it. And I think with a lot of kids that, and I can only use her as one data point that come from the foster care system, she comes with a huge amount of baggage, huge baggage. And we understand that. And we try to be understanding and considerate and compassionate, empathetic about that. However, you still have to live life. And we do take sometimes a harder approach and say, look, if you want things in life, they're not going to be given to you. You're not going to cry your way to getting to it. You're not going to try to deflect in order to get something because I've already told her I'm 20 steps ahead of her. And I told her I sat in a YouTube for hours on end so I can outlast her any day of the week. And you're going to have to work and earn and just try to be better every day. And that's what we try to instill in her. My son got it from day one when he was born, so he follows that a little bit more, but it's like you're going to have to do work and it's going to be hard, but you're going to accomplish it and you're going to do good things. So she fights that quite a bit, and I understand why she does, but my husband and I we're unrelenting, and I think she's starting to turn a little corner. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, even that is a true testament of hard work and what is worthy in life, right? And loving her whole and realize and having her realize her self-worth and what her value she brings to the table is so important. And you're doing that by showing her what hard work is and showing her that if she puts her energy into X, Y, or Z, it is obtainable. It's like dreams are great, right? And they're great aspirations, and it's great to have a vision, but you have to put in the work to obtain those dreams. And I think that is great advice and good advice for anybody. But on a more advice note, since you are so good at this and so great at motivating other people, what advice would you give to moms who are also raising kids while serving?
Right. So let me finish on this part. So now, I mean, after being in our home, she wants to, be working like the veterinarian space. So she loves animals. She wants to do that. So she actually now talks about going to college, and she goes, "Hey, can I come back home during college and bring my dog?" I go, "Yes." But now she's taking it too far. She's like, "Can I live in the house next to you?" I go, "Why would you? I want my kids living next to me when they grow up." So, but for other moms who are taking care of kids and in the military, number one, it's tough. I mean, there was a point I didn't stay in longer. One of the reasons why is because my son was going to start school. I wanted him to be in a location that he could grow up with friends and live this life. And I watched how other women had deployed 6 months after having birth, and I was glad I was not in that position. But I saw and I got to talk to women who felt bad about it, and even when their kids are teenagers to this day feel terrible and guilty. And I didn't want to be like that. So there's a point in your career where you're going to have to make a decision, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to give yourself the grace that it's okay to make those decisions. Kids will grow up fine, but you have to be okay with it yourself. And that is, I mean, the advice I give. That's the advice I would give to women is that, yeah, the beauty is that we could do so much. The bad thing is that you have to make a decision, and you can't straddle the fence because then everyone's going to be miserable. So when you make that decision and it's personal for everyone, be okay with it. I'm okay that I retired when I did. I mean, I did not know I was going to be on a reality show and do all these other things, but I knew I was going to be able to still help people, mentor people. My husband and I had talked about fostering for a long time, and we made it a reality. And then to get on the show, which was it's just icing on the cake, and to be with, you know, Phil and, Louise in Tough House and doing Tough as Nails. I mean, that was, man, it can't get any better. So I'm really grateful for that. But every decision I've made, I've thought about it and I'm okay with. And I didn't know where it was going to lead to, but it's phenomenal so far. So I think for all of the women who are torn, it's going to be okay. Yeah.
For sure. And then when you make that decision, I've noticed like when I've made the decision, it was like one foot in front of the other, and the right path that you're walking down, it's meant for you. And so like you said, it's different for everyone, and you have to be okay and comfortable with that decision. And I know when I got out, I had a lot of people, my last name was different, and he was a 1 star, and he came to me and he was like, "Are you sure you want to get out?" And I was a senior captain, and it was a funny joke because we had the same last name, and so people called him my uncle, although there was no relation. And I remember thinking very clearly, like, I can be great outside of the uniform. Like, I don't have this uniform doesn't define my capabilities. And I know that I want to continue to serve, and I know I want to continue to be a part of this community. It's just going to look different. But I had to make that choice for myself too. And it was primarily because I was pregnant with baby number 4, and I knew 60 hours a week was not going to cut it because I was getting ready to take a command, and I didn't want somebody being in charge of my brand new baby for 60 hours a week. There was just, although it's okay for others, was just not something that felt right to me. And so here we are. We're able to have conversations like this because we chose our own path that was right for us, not what the military said we needed to do, not what our commander said we needed to do, but what was right for us.
The things that I did, especially when my son was born, it was not possible without my husband. He was the one like, okay, you're at your staff tour, and he's in the Navy Reserves. So we looked at where we were in our careers and who was going to give more. And he actually took a sabbatical from his job to take a year off to raise our son because I didn't want my son in daycare, you know, eight,
Yeah.
10 hours a day because I'm working at NORAD Northcom. So my husband was able to do that, but he was also able to do his ACSC, correspondence and work on it and work on some other academic things that he was working on while, in the staff working in the J8. So
Yeah, I love that. I love that you have a good support system at home. I'm back to work full time. My husband's retired, 26-year Army vet, and he's primary caregiver of the younger two. So, I mean, it's really, really incredible to have such a good support system. And Meryl, what I love so much about your story is like you're a kid from the Bronx and you have walked this amazing path that led you to, you kind of hinted at it, CBS's Tough as Nails reality show. And I just want to know, how was that experience and what did you learn about yourself that maybe you didn't know before going on that show?
yeah, so tough as nails, man. It was great. Like it was. I don't want to overplay the word amazing, but it was amazing. So I I just when I saw the first season, I was like, oh yeah, I could do all this stuff. I might not be great at it, but I know I could do it. But meeting, Phil and the other executive producers, meeting Louise Kogan, they really they really did what they said they were going to do. They wanted to take 12 people with these great stories and inspirational stories and highlight them. And they wanted to do it during a time where we have a lot of stuff going on politically and have this feel good moment that, hey, regardless of who you are in this country, it's still a great place of opportunity. You could do some great things here. Stop. There's a lot of negative things out there and things that you might be really, really tired of, but this is still one of the best countries here. So I really enjoyed that they did what they said and they made it competitive. They made it hard. I learned, gosh, I think I was more emotional on that show than anywhere. Like my friends were just, oh, they were like, did I just see a tear on television? Like they clowned me pretty hard. Anyway, thanks guys. But what I learned is that I love to be with people who want to be competitive. I learned to, I have a new family, my Savage Crew family from, Scott who won, Swifty, Sarah, Selly. I mean, those guys, we've already since the show ended met up in Vegas to really just hang out because we were more than just teammates. I mean, we are seriously family. I've met, all their significant others and it's been really great. So I learned that having that type of camaraderie is important to me. I didn't think so, but I know as I left the Air Force and retired, I think for anyone who's retired or have separated after being in for a couple of years, there's something that you miss and you can't quite pinpoint it, but it's like this empty place. And every so often, maybe you have the opportunity to fill it up again. And I got that opportunity. So it feels really good because yeah, it just does. So, I learned that about myself. I like that camaraderie and that spirit and people like that. So I enjoy that quite a bit.
That's awesome. So speaking of filling it up, you do a lot from military to motherhood to motivating others. So what do you do to fill up your cup in order to serve the way that you do?
I'm a gym rat, so I like to get in the gym and lift some weights and keep my body in shape. So I do everything from lifting to doing boxing. I've done Muay Thai. I've done martial arts for probably 25 years, 30 years. So that's what keeps me kind of centered.
Yeah.
And if I can't get to the gym, I do play some music. So
Okay, so what's your go-to song? Sorry, it was a wild, random question.
no, I mean I play instruments, so
Oh,
I will
look at
yeah,
you.
so that type of music.
You're like, I'm telling you, the more I know, the more it's true. Meryl, you're so flipping cool. Okay, what do you play?
What don't I play? I have three bass guitars. I have a guitar, keyboard. I have a digital recorder. I've recorded on a very basic scale some music. I have
Awesome.
MPC. I'm Yeah, little known fact.
You're
I do
honorable.
I will put up some bass riffs and because you could tell like I'll turn a little bit. Let's see which side. See that rolling speaker right there? Kind of hide it. So I use this area to record some stuff.
Cool. So cool. So let's go back to wrap up our conversation. Let's go back to your Star Trek influence here for just a moment. I find
Okay.
it incredibly interesting that there was a woman on the show, Lieutenant Commander Deanna Troy, if I'm saying the last name right, and her job was the Starfleet counselor who sensed emotion. She was half human and half something else, which begs
Okay.
the question about mental health and the importance of mental health to those who serve. Why is mental health well-being so important for service members and veterans?
Well, mental health, I think for everyone, is incredibly important. So for service members, it's important, I think, because of the obvious, because we operate heavy machinery, weaponry. Most of us are responsible in some capacity for other people's lives. What we do matters in any field. I don't care, Army, Air Force, Coast, even the Coast Guard. I love those guys. They get such a hard time. Coasties, guardsmen, Marine Corps, all of them. Every role that we play, even though you think it's small, is, you know, you're messing it up. You could be responsible for people getting injured or dying. So it's very important. So to be mentally focused and sound is important. And there are days when sometimes we fall short. Sometimes we experience things in our lives that is hard to process and really messes us up. And number one, I think the great thing now about it is that the military is, just more, there's more talk about it and there's not this stigma about it because, I've had a lot of troops under my charge that have had mental health issues. When I was an acting commander one time, I had one of my troops go out in town with a loaded weapon, took a whole bunch of prescription medication in the hopes of ending his life with a standoff with police. And that was the first time as a commander or someone as in a leadership position that I had to deal with that. And some actions that I had to do previously probably led him down that path. And so, you know, visiting him when he was being observed and talking with him and talking him through some things, is incredibly important as a commander or someone in charge or supervising or managing. And I'm glad we got him the help that he needed to live a pretty good life. So it's incredibly important. And I mean, this is a man who worked on my, life support equipment. And so, yeah, it's important. And when people are needing help, you got to be there for them. Whether you are a friend, a supervisor, or just someone standing by just watching, how can you help? I'm sure he didn't want to see me, but didn't stop me from coming by, talking to him, bringing him some books, talking about some, nitnoid stuff. So yeah, it's incredibly important. And if people are out there not knowing who they can talk to, just start talking to someone. And I know it's hard. When I go through some things, I'm a very closed off person. In the YouTube community, we fly alone, alone we fly. And sometimes as pilots, we go through stuff and I've held things in to the point it started spilling over and someone noticed. So, mental health is important if you want to get that mission done. So, to answer your question,
It totally it answers plus, which is totally expected of you because you're just so amazing. I just think that that's a really incredible thing. Is the most important thing is to be there for others, and as a leader, like if they don't take anything else, the audience doesn't take anything else away from this conversation. That right there, that little nugget is incredible, especially for leaders to know that it does matter. You can make a difference and change somebody's life for the better and help them get back to themselves. And so I think that's really incredible of you to lead in such a compassionate and kind way. When I started this whole conversation with you, I was super nervous, super excited because I really do think that you are one of the coolest women on the planet. And after talking with you today, you just might have leveled up to be like the number one coolest woman on the planet for me personally, because I just think what you're doing, what you have done is so incredible and so amazing. And yeah, it's just, I want to say rad, which we don't even say rad anymore, but I'm a kid of the 80s, so I'm going to say it. You're
Let's
so
bring Rad back. Bring Rad back.
bring it back. That's going to be your next shirt. Bring rad back. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today and for sharing your story and being on the Women in Service show. It's been really such an honor.
Thank you so much for having me. And if I'm the first, awesome.
You are totally the first.
Yes.
Well, that concludes our conversation with Merrill Tengesdal. Isn't she amazing? I had such a great time, so many laughs, and so many moments of inspiration and motivation as she was sharing all of her story. I love who she is in the uniform and out of the uniform, and how she's really influencing her children and shaping them into being great young men and women. It is really incredible to know her. It's such an honor. But most importantly, I loved how she had stepped completely outside of her comfort zone and agreed to be a reality TV star on CBS's Toughest Nails. It is my personal honor and pleasure to officially congratulate her as being the number one guest on Women in Service, a partnership between Viacom CBS VetNet and Freedom Sisters Media. And as a personal note, from one mother to another, I just want to wish all of you mothers out there a very special and a very happy Mother's Day. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time on Women in Service.